Ini adalah agenda awani khas yang berada di selatan Jawa Tengah, 25 km dari Yogyakarta. Ada tempat nama Langgeran ini. Itu adalah gunung yang dulunya adalah gunung berapi, tapi kini sudah tidak berfungsi lagi sebagai gunung berapi, tapi jadi tempat ekopelancongan yang baik. Tapi kami di sini, saya bersama jurukamera berkait untuk meneliti rantaian bekalan kelapa. Dan kenapa ia penting bukan saja untuk Malaysia, Indonesia, tapi juga seluruh negara ASEAN dan Pasifik dan sebagainya. Oleh itu kita kena tanyalah pada orang hebat. Orang hebat ini adalah orang yang berada di International Coconut Community ataupun Komuniti Kelapa Sedunia atau Kelapa Antarabangsa. Uron Salum, I hope I pronounce your name right. Nice to meet you. I was just telling the audience, we want to ask you firstly, why coconut? Why is it so important? I mean, traditionally, culturally, we know, our grandparents at least, many of us would know that our grandparents have a tree in the village, or many trees, or few trees, but we don't pay heed to it much. We take it for granted that it's there in our cooking and everything else. But now you're looking at it as an industry. ASEAN is looking at it and the Pacific to work together and bring it higher in global trade. Why?
Well, if you look at it this way, your statistics, Indonesia statistics indicate that nearly 7 million families are directly engaged in coconut farming. If there are nearly 7 million families, then if there are 5 members per family, that's like 35 million people directly dependent on coconut. Number one. And number two, if kelapa is in Indonesian diet every day, then more than 35 million families benefit from coconut. You can't say any more than that, then, because it is also, as I mentioned in my presentation, it is embedded in the culture. You have a wedding, you must have coconut. If you have a traditional fish, you must have coconut. It is not just an economic crop, it's a social crop. And the socio-economic benefits is what makes coconut very important for Indonesian people and for many other cultures that do the same with coconut.
So apart from our favorite dish of nasi lemak or gulai or curry, it's also important to alleviate the income of millions of people, especially those in the rural area. But we've been hearing about how coconut is just a small portion of world's use of oil, for example, of oil that can be eaten. We also heard that the trees are getting older because my grandfather planted it, my father didn't, and then I'm not planting it. So they are becoming old, but we want more coconut. And the world now being told by you in your presentation that over the last few years, there's suddenly been a sea of change. Somehow, somewhere in the world, people are wanting coconut either as a value added like virgin coconut oil or just the coconut water as a new beverage that's healthy and green and organic. So, but the fact is, coconut production is not increasing much. In fact, you fear that it might be going down. Instead, demand is there. That's an irony. So what do we do? Is this a crisis now?
The only way forward with this is to convince our coconut farmers to plant coconut. If you have already existing coconut, you take a young coconut, maybe if you don't get it from the research station or from some scientist, you walk around your farm and you find the best coconut, maybe the largest nut with the big meat inside that you probably already know which one of the three gives you the best coconut, and you take the nut from that, grow it into a seedling, plant it in between your existing coconuts. By the time it grows to 7 years old, 8 years old, maybe 10, maybe the whole nuts are ready to come. Most coconuts in Indonesia would be already over 60 years old. Some would have been now reaching 90 years old. They will look like they have coconuts up there, but they are not as many as they were when they were 40, 50 years old.
We've been told that, even to get the seedlings, it's a challenge. So if you need to plant millions of coconut, because that's 60%. You say in Indonesia alone, there are millions of coconut, so that's going to be millions of seedlings that you need. But there's not enough countries, companies, communities producing seedlings. So how are you looking at that?
One of the technologies that's developed and has been worked on in many places, even at Manado, in the Philippines, is what they call tissue culture, where from one coconut you can take an embryo out, you can multiply that hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, and produce little plantlets that will become seedlings and to plant. Where you could not plant, where you used to plant one coconut with one coconut, now with one coconut you can plant 1,000 coconuts, let's say, because of the tissue culture technology. This, we believe now that we know the Mexicans have the technology that is now commercial. We know that Malaysians are working hard at it. We know the Sri Lankans are almost ready to go commercial on tissue culture. If that happens, that's the promise we have. There is no other better way to do this now as far as science is concerned, rather than to go tissue culture, to have a very high rate of multiplication, to be able to what they call micropropagation, which enables you to mass produce seedlings, planting. This is where most of the Indonesian industry now are actually looking at it at the moment.
60 to 70% of Indonesian population are very, very young. It's a young population, but young population doesn't look at old trees or even thinking of replacing the old trees. So how do you make young Indonesians, young Southeast Asian citizens, young Pacific Island citizens, for example, to look at this and find new ways? Because otherwise, it's going to be the 60 to 65 years old farmers who are still looking at this.
As I mentioned in my presentation, nobody will want to be involved in any activity or come and belong to any club if they don't see a benefit. This is where we have to get this type of information out to them that, hey, coconut is no longer what they used to call a sunset industry where it's dying. Coconut industry over the last 7 years has made a very big comeback. The industry is profitable. And these products can only be done by, high-value products can only be done by high input of good technology, good knowledge. I believe it's going to bring back a lot of our young men and women back when they see that this is the trend I am seeing now in India. When I walk into the farms, compared to 10 years ago, there's younger people. I go across the Java corridor, all the way out to a place like Gunjung Genteng. I see young couple setting up VCO factories, making very nice products that are just as good as Thailand or anywhere in the world. This is a promise in itself that it can be done. All we need to do is get this positive message out to our young people. That's important. Young people in coconut industry in itself makes it sustainable.
Getting the message out. Since you touched on that, you started your presentation with, there's this person who went on YouTube and the internet and said that, coconut oil, palm oil, also they're bad for health. They're almost poisonous. So these are the things that we've been fighting, not just on the individual posting level, but we know there are strong lobby by strong trade groups or related to farming association in the developed nation like America. So how do we get the message out when we're struggling to really give incentives and financial aid and help to the coconut planters or coconut farmers? And on the other hand, at the high level, and you showed the graph where soybean, for example, is a large component of oil being used in the world. Second is palm oil. And even then, there is this invisible fight to win the minds of the people. So what hope do we have?
Well, what the International Coconut Community has done is to establish what we call International Scientific Advisory Committee on Health. This is not agriculture people now. These are chemists, medical doctors, clinical scientists, clinical researchers. The first panel of experts meeting will be actually in Jakarta on 17th and 18th of next month. That meeting prepares now for an open dialogue now with FAO in Rome, in the middle of December. The only way to do this is because even the FAO has published what they call dietary guidelines. Those dietary guidelines, actually the wording in it now warns people about consuming coconut oil. In other words, it's telling people you can only consume so much percentage. Now, if you're warning me, it's like warning me against cigarette. There should not be such a warning against a very healthy oil for families. And so this one of these meetings now with FAO in December is to scientifically bring some evidence to them to say that coconut oil is healthy. All that is being said about coconut oil is false, it's misleading, it's based on very bad science. Science has already been proven to be wrong. And I think this is what needs to be happened. But this is, again, as you correctly say, it's the responsibility of an intergovernmental organization like us to take the lead on behalf of the older countries, Indonesia being a very big member of this organization, to take it and take it down, take it out to the world platforms. But not only that, at every venue or avenue open to our members, our countries, our ministers, even our presidents and prime ministers of the coconut countries, if they have the floor on the assembly of WHO or FAO, they should stand up and speak out and vigorously contest this untruth told about coconut and promote the goodness of coconut. This is what's needed now for all of us to take it at all levels. I think the other propaganda we need to do is promote its health, the healthy attributes of coconut, the nutritional values of coconut in our own countries. Here we have to come up with a propaganda to promote it so that people go to it rather than run away from it. Yeah, so I think those are some of the things that are needed. It just needs now pretty good strategies for us to be able to get to the bottom of this, get this very nice industry growing and benefiting our people. I think that is very important to do now.
On a more real note, the delegation from Philippines at this exchange visit keep on talking about the low price of coconut or nuts, and at the same time we're trying to convince the next generation or the present young generation that it's not only a good thing to go into health-wise, it's also commercially viable. How do you make that trade?
I'm glad you asked that, because time was a little bit too short for me to fully discuss some market trends. The low price and effect on a farmer is related to copra. Now, if you go high value product, if copra is selling for 1,000 kina per ton, $1,000 per ton, sorry, I used the PNG currency. Virgin coconut oil is selling for $6,000 per ton. It takes 16 coconuts to make 1 liter of virgin coconut oil. It takes 900 liters of virgin coconut oil to make 1 ton, 1 metric ton. So a metric ton is $6,000. If you convert all this into coconut price and copra values, our farmers should now be considering moving into value addition. Yeah, where you will how should I describe it like an aircraft that flies above the turbulence level. Yeah, you get to a new price level, but that it's not affected by the coconut oil price that is set in Rotterdam, because that's based on the copra, and then actually the bad copra, as we call it now, the new terminology is black copra, because now the buyers in Indonesia are buying what they call white copra. It's the highest quality copra. It's 3 times the price of just any copra. And so a lot of that's happening. I know 2 companies here are doing that. I met with one of them already. So there are these opportunities where we can actually graduate our farmers from producing a commodity that is of low value to come up. And most of that, it's not too difficult to do. It doesn't need any additional capital. It just needs a bit of a mindset changes to possibly think about coconut as a business, not just as a pastime.
So you think the cooperative system is the best way to do that? Because it might be too tough for the older generation, but the transition period in the collective will, because we understand from yesterday's visit to Sri Kandi Cooperative, for example, it takes thousands of US dollars just to have an international organic certification, for example.
I think what you have now is a situation where cooperatives has a long history, bad and good. Okay, cooperative principles are the best for small people. Unfortunately, there's been miserable success in some countries because the governance issues have been compromised. The professionalism is not there to actually make it work. But it is the best model and the business model for small people to come together to create economies of scale. They get into groupings where they're easily accessible by services and they easily access markets. So accessing both ways is very important for. Now I walked through Indian. There are 10,000 coconut cooperatives, not just cooperatives. 10,000 coconut cooperatives in India. It's the only place I know now where coconut cooperatives are very successful. And the coconut cooperatives is a 3-tier system. The coconut producer societies together form a coconut producer federation. A number of coconut producer federations then establish a commercial company under the company law. Okay, there are different laws. And it's the coconut producer company that does all the commercial thing. They are now going into 2 to 3, 4, 5 million US dollar factories, processing fresh nira, processing VCO, desiccated coconut, and or just coconut cooking oil because Indians eat a lot for cooking. And so that's the value addition that now we would like to encourage our industry to start going to. Yeah, and I think this is where. And if that message, if it's packaged properly, and this is where the media people come in, where they know how best to get the best messages out the best way, and to take the message out to our people that we've got to go up value, graduate from low price commodities to slightly higher price commodities. It's not something that can happen as easily as we think, because as I said in my presentation, these farmers don't work for you. They are an institution on their own. So we just have to convince them. But the first step, as you said, farmer producer organization, if they're done well and not allowed to go bad, they can be very, very useful. Because you do need little people together joining in. Because that synergy is very important for good development, that will stay for a long, long time. So I'm just really hoping that a workshop like this send some people with influence back with the right information. Maybe they can start working on that. Still, I think the responsibility for the government is still there, because smallholder farmers are still what I refer to as the community service responsibility of every government.
And we want to eradicate poverty anyway. Coconut could help do that by a long mile.
Coconut is a very versatile crop. And if you are able to sell your whole nut at the value at which its husk will be used, its shell will be used, the meat will be used, the water will be used. I've been in Indonesian farming communities where they sell every one of those. And so they are able to see a higher value of one coconut. In Lampung, when I went, the person they're asking his coconut to make copra, he packs his skin, puts on his bike, he goes on and sells it to a coir factory. He makes charcoal through a drum, and then he takes charcoal on his bike, one bag, maybe 50 kgs, and takes it down to the charcoal factory and sells it. He breaks the coconut, the water goes into a little bucket. The Natadi cocoa lady comes and takes it from him and makes Natadi cocoa. He is able to sell every bit of that thing. And when we can get to that in our communities and then be able to, once we get enough experience, we upscale. And then there's no turning back. Yeah.
Before I let you go, you've been a good friend for a conversation on this very interesting topic. You also look at my country, Malaysia, and where do we stand in the coconut whole value chain, and where do you think we should go?
The 54th APCC session ministerial meeting referred to by my fellow presenter today was only held there last month when we met. And Honorable Minister Salahuddin E was sitting next to me for the whole morning discussing this particular issue. I gave what we call an International Coconut Community Award to a farmer that was able to achieve 36,000 nuts per hectare production on his 13-hectare farm. To me, that is the tip of the iceberg that is telling there's more where that came from, meaning that if this farmer can achieve that high level of productivity, there is no reason why every other one will. And I could see from the numbers that the profitability of the farm, even just selling fresh coconut. At 9 months old, you harvest, it goes to the wet market. I don't know what they sell for, 3 ringgit maybe on the wet market. Now, my take on this with Malaysia is that there is a country that is now buying 90% of coconuts from Indonesia for its processes. I've been to 2 good factories there. Linako is one of them, and a few others. They're doing 700,000 nuts per day process. All that coconut coming from Indonesia. It's not sustainable. So we need to plant coconuts in Malaysia. We need to plant coconut in Malaysia. The largest factories in the world are in Indonesia, in Riau. The Sambo Group have just upgraded to processing 5 million nuts per day. You know, Tainoku, the managing director, was talking to us in our presentation, in our conference presentation in Bangkok. Now, it's mind-boggling what coconut is going, where coconut is going now. And so the challenge is for Malaysia now is to start the planting of coconut. I will not say conversion from palm oil, but that is entirely up to the people and the country as to where policy sits. But from what I saw and from what I heard, talking to the Secretary General himself when I was there, his deputies, the people in Mardi themselves when I was there, I just finished with the Director General of Mardi in Beijing and I came straight here, Dr. Rolf. They are certainly now going to make some very positive step towards the planting of coconut. That, I think, is a very good music I can hear in my ears as far as the international coconut.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uron Salum. You have been an advocate and a friend of a lot of people in rural Asia and Pacific because coconut is the tree of life. Thank you so much for making time. Itu tadi saudara Uron Salum, beliau daripada International Coconut Community yang memperjuangkan kelapa ni sampailah ke Presiden Harvard University kerana ada pelbagai isu bukan saja di peringkat akar umbi tetapi juga anti kelapa dan sebagainya di dunia. Ini adalah rakaman khas Agenda AWANI di selatan Jawa Tengah di Pulau Jawa, Indonesia. Saya Kamro Bahrain bersama dengan juru kamera Kai melaporkan khas untuk Astrawani, Agenda AWANI.